Hey guys, Matt here. So this is kind of a weird way to start this video, but this guy, was an absolute dummy and did not make sure that his shot was like in focus at the start of the record session. So the first little bit of the video was out of focus, and rather than subjecting you guys to like blurry video, here is the TLDR, quite frankly the TLD didn't see, I guess, for you guys. I sang that it was supposed to work for time of the year. So you're welcome for not subjecting you to that anymore. And I really like Jordan Love for week one because he's going against Detroit. I think you're going to have to score a lot of points. That is basically the portion of the video that I recorded before I noticed that I was not in focus. So enjoy the rest of the video. Be sure to like and subscribe. Hopefully the production quality will be better moving forward than me holding up my phone and re-recording literally the very first part of the video. But hop in and enjoy. Another quarterback who I may not have drafted to be a starter, but I'm very happy to have him in my lineup for week one, is Trevor Lawrence. I think Trevor's actually a pretty interesting sleeper for this upcoming season. I really like the Liam Cohen hire for the head coaching spot. I really like what that could be for the offense, right? Travis Hunter also coming in. You got Brian Thomas, who's a real breakout candidate. And in week one specifically, they're going up against Carolina Panthers. Now, the Panthers last season were absolutely abysmal against quarterbacks. They were allowed the third most points to quarterbacks last season. And I think this offense only got better as far as passing goes, again, with Travis Hunter. I don't know what exactly to do about the running backs on Jacksonville, and I don't expect a very good running game at Jacksonville. So I think that's only going to make Trevor have to actually throw a little bit more. And in this game against Carolina, I think the Panthers are going to keep it pretty competitive. I don't think this is going to be a situation where Jacksonville's just going to be able to run the entire second half. So I think Trevor's going to have to continue to throw throughout the game, and that leads to some fantasy goodness for him. Now, one quarterback who you may have drafted with the intention of starting that I think you may want to put on your bench in week one, that's Brock Purdy. I think that the Seattle Seahawks actually have a really, really underrated, really good defensive unit. They're also at home, which in Seattle, I factor that in a little bit. I don't factor in too much for every team, but for Seattle being at home, I think for their defense, it's actually a pretty big deal. In week one, also, you do still have a healthy Christian McCaffrey, and that does mean some free points for Purdy throwing it to him, but that also means a more viable running game for the San Francisco 49ers offense. I think both teams also defensively right now are healthy. That could just lead to a slower pace of play, a better defensive matchup on both sides. On the Seattle side, you have a new offensive coordinator in there, a new quarterback in there. And so I can just see it kind of being a bit of a slower pace for those guys. And here comes my dog. Hi, buddy. Hi. So what do you think about Brock Purdy in week one? Yeah, you think he's going to be good? Is he going to be a good boy? You're a good boy. Hi, bud. Oh, he's just going to sit here now. Okay. I think he's just barely out of the shot. So I'm just going to pet my dog, and we're going to talk about Justin Fields now because I've got Justin Fields as a sit for this week. I think that the Pittsburgh defense is going to give him some problems. They're very good against quarterbacks. They're a very good defense. And so, now we want butt rubs. Okay, now we turned. Okay, so I talked about a player who might be cheeks this week. So yeah, I'd rub the cheeks. Is that what's going on here, buddy? So I think Justin Fields, while I do like his upside for the season long, and look, with Fields, there's always a chance on any given week that he can just run a little bit and bail himself out. I'm not willing to trust it in week one against a Pittsburgh Steelers defense. That's just not a bet I'm willing to make for week one. I would rather play any of the guys I've mentioned before in this video already. I'd rather play Jared Goff. I'd rather play Tua. I'd rather play CJ Stroud also. I like his matchup a little bit going against the Rams. And Tua rather. I like his matchup going against the Colts a bit more. So there are just a few options there who I do prefer. By the way, in my rankings that you'll see on YouTube, these are for 6-point passing touchdowns, not 4. So that kind of hinders Justin Fields just a little bit. Now at running back, for the most part, I think you're going to want to start the guys that you were planning on starting. I do think there's a couple of sneaky options. A guy like a Jerome Ford, who you probably drafted late because we have such uncertainty for his season-long potential. He's the guy I want in my lineup this week. I have him as an RB2 at my running back 24. He's going up against the Bengals, notoriously just not a good defense in the NFL right now. And so I think Ford being kind of the workload guy, the veteran in that backfield right now, I think he can have a really nice game in week one. I have hesitation with him season long. We'll see. I think it's going to get messy pretty quickly with Dylan Sampson. And then, I don't know, Judkins might be a thing later in the year. But I think to start the year, though, I actually really like what Ford can bring for you. Another guy who I really like for week one, and that's Tony Pollard. Tyjae Spears is on IR to start the season, so Pollard kind of gets to be by himself and run that whole load to start the season out. They have Denver, who is a very good defense, but I just think the entire offense is going to have to go through Tony Pollard, and he can kind of volume his way to probably like 80 yards or so with all the opportunities they'll have for a touchdown. I did just want to touch on the lunacy of the rookie depth charts at running back for a brief moment here. Because I do think you should sit Bill Krosky-Merritt in week 1, but I do think you should start Trevion Henderson. I don't really care at all that Trevion Henderson was listed as the RB3 on the Patriots depth chart. I've got him as my running back 20 for week 1. That one doesn't matter to me at all because he was a second-round pick. He's a guy who was drafted to be the guy, drafted to be the starter. Like, veterans, a lot of times, are just kind of popped up a little bit on these depth charts. They make the rookie earn it, all that kind of jazz. So I'm really not too worried about it as far as Henderson goes. Even Krosky-Merritt, the fact that he's listed as RB4, that does not scare me. It does give me some hesitation on playing him in week 1. If they're going to kind of make him earn his touches, almost in an Isaiah Pacheco kind of way. This is a guy who has a 7th-round pick. It's not like this is a guy who's going to be handed any sort of keys to the car. This is a guy who's going to have to earn every touch he gets early in the year. And so for Krosky-Merritt, I do think I can see a world where I'd say, maybe I'm not putting him in my flex spot in week 1. Let me put in a veteran guy. And kind of a similar note with RJ Harvey and J.K. Dobbins. If you roster them both, I think for week 1, maybe you're just going to go ahead and play J.K. Dobbins for week 1. I don't mind in a PPR league in particular playing RJ Harvey in that spot. I have them literally ranked back-to-back, so I just don't quite know what to do there yet. I think they both can be pretty good, though. I definitely drafted it that way during the preseason. Kind of drafted both those guys to be viable players in a flex spot. So that's kind of where I'm at with those guys. Omarion Hampton is one who I actually have ranked a little bit lower, not because of like being a rookie or depth chart thing. Just a Najee Harris appears ready to go, playing against a pretty good defense of the Chiefs defense. So I've got Omarion Hampton down at running back 19. He's still going to be in your lineup, though. I can't imagine being in a scenario where you're not playing Omarion Hampton, but he's just maybe a little bit lower than I expect him to be later on in the season. That's part of the thing with these rookies. You're drafting them for what they'll get you kind of in weeks like 6 and beyond. So let's talk about wide receiver. Now, there's a few guys who I want to highlight as guys who have early season opportunities that might go away a little bit as the season goes on. But for week 1, I think they're very viable players like a WR2 or a 3 or a flex, kind of depending on your league setup. Deebo Samuel, because of the Terry McLaurin holdout, I can see Terry having a small limit to his snaps in week 1 and even week 2, which could just mean more opportunities for Deebo to really have a nice game here at the start of the season. Ricky Pearsall is another one, just with all the injuries to the 49ers receivers. Emeka Egbuka for the same reason. I could see just, there's a Chris Godwin injury, there's a Jaleel McLaughlin injury. Cade Otton is banged up, but if he plays, he's a tight end who I would really like to have too for this very same reason. Mike Evans, obviously, he's Mike Evans. He's a guy who you're just going to have in your lineup anyway. So Emeka Egbuka, I think, is a guy who has an early season opportunity. And I had one more, and I don't remember who it was. Demario Douglas, that's the other one. That's who it was. Because Stephon Diggs, even if he does play week 1, and it sounds like he will, I still can see also coming off injury, I can see where Demario Douglas gets an opportunity in the slot to kind of get to play a whole bunch and just get 8, 9, 10 targets potentially from Drake May in week 1. So I think there's a way where he can kind of PPR his way to a really nice game in week 1 before Stephon Diggs is totally caught up. The last wide receiver who I wanted to highlight, also boosted by an early season situation, but his is not about the other weapons. His is about his quarterback, because Joe Flacco is getting the start in week 1 against Cincinnati Bengals. So that means Jerry Jeudy absolutely should be in your lineup. He's a WR2 as long as Joe Flacco is quarterback for the Browns, especially in week 1 going against Cincinnati Bengals. I expect Flacco to easily clear 270, 280 yards with ease, probably going to be in the 300s, right? He's a gunslinger. It's going to go deep with it, and Jerry Jeudy is going to be the recipient of a lot of that. So I expect good things for Jerry Jeudy in week 1. We'll see how it goes once Flacco eventually gets benched. They want to take a look at the young guys, but at least early in the season, you're putting Jerry Jeudy in that starting lineup. My 2 big sits at wide receiver for week 1, and they are unfortunately 2 things that we're just going to follow all season long. DK Metcalf going against the New York Giants and Sauce Gardner, and Calvin Ridley going against Pat Surtain and the Denver Broncos. These are 2 situations where you just kind of look at it and you go, I think I'd rather not if I can avoid it. DK, I've got him ranked all the way down at wide receiver 33. So chances are you're going to be playing him in a flex spot. He'll still crack your lineup. But there are scenarios, though, where I can see where you're not. You know, I think the combination of new team for him, new quarterback who I don't think is all that good at this point in his career, a very conservative offensive coordinator who I think is going to want to run the football, a good defense for the Steelers who I think they can win this game off of defense and conservative offense that takes a lot of time off the clock. All of that's kind of a perfect storm for week one. You know, I'm not saying DK Metcalf is a season-long bust by any means, but for week one, I would just rather not go there. And lastly, we're going to talk about 3 tight ends here that I think you can plug in your lineup for week one. One of them was drafted pretty much across the board. That's Tucker Kraft. I can't think of a league that I was in this year where he went undrafted by any means, but if you took him as your tight end 2, I think this is a very good week to go ahead and plug him in your lineup as they play Detroit. Like I said with Jordan Love, I think there's going to be a lot of points that the Packers are just going to need to score in this game in order to get the win in Lambeau. I think Tucker Kraft's going to be a big part of that. The other 2 are definitely guys you can find off the waiver wire. One may not even play. That's Cade Otton for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. If he does play, I like the opportunity he's got with those injured wide receivers, like I mentioned when I was talking about Emeka Egbuka. That brings a lot of opportunity. And Cade Otton was really good, kind of that middle portion of last season when all the wide receivers in Tampa were injured. He's kind of got a junior version of that situation going on right now. So that could be really good. Really, really good for Cade Otton. He could be a low-end streamer. I think I've got him ranked as my tight end 13. So most likely he's out there, and if you're in absolute pickle, you can go ahead and pick him up and play him. I would play him over Jake Ferguson, who's got the Eagles. That's kind of my tight end sit of the week, if you will. And to cap things off, I just want to give a little bit of a highlight here to Hunter Henry, tight end for the New England Patriots. As a streaming option, they are facing the Las Vegas Raiders, who last year gave up the 3rd most fantasy points to tight ends. So again, things don't totally carry over on the defensive side of things, the matchups from one year to the next, but it is kind of all we have to go off of at the moment. I like Drake May, Stephon Diggs, might play, might not play. If he does play, he might be limited. So just a lot of factors there that I think could really lead to Hunter Henry at least having some opportunities in a pretty good matchup. So if you are stuck, if you're in a pickle at tight end, then hey, Hunter Henry, there's the guy that you can plug into your starting lineup. Hopefully you continue to plug our channel into your starting lineup for the remainder of the season. This is my plan on what we're going to do each week kind of as we get through the season. Just kind of this little, make some rankings, talk about the interesting ones that are of note each week, and go that way. If I have time, if I can, I'll try to get some waiver wire shows in there. We'll see how things go. I'm playing a little bit by ear this season, so until then, guys, be sure to like the, wow, I'm not good at this YouTube thing yet, am I? Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next time.